Recruitment. Very simply put, recruitment is 80% of the job. And I'm not saying that the actual functioning of the work is unimportant or irrelevant. The productivity is absolutely what you're aiming at. But what this principle very clearly simply states is that getting the right person in the right position is 80% of getting everything done, because once they're the main difference maker. That's the person in that job. That's the person with the responsibility, with the authority, with the day in, day out objectivity on the job. They're the ones getting it done. Now, this doesn't mean that the other things aren't important, like training, resourcing, delegating, follow through, annual reviews, and maybe even semi-annual reviews and daily checking in to see what they're doing, and then seeing how that went as far as accountability and all those sorts of things. Those all matter too. But getting the right person in the job is the most important factor you're going to accomplish. In fact, the president of Southern Wesleyan University recently stated, and by recently, I think it was about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, recently stated something along the lines of, personnel is policy. Personnel is policy. And what he meant by that, very simply, is who you hire determines what your actual values are, what your actual corporate culture is. You can say whatever you want on a piece of paper. You can put whatever mission, vision, purpose, whatever you want to put out there as far as a statement. It can be catchy, it can be pithy, it can be all numbers of things, but in order for it to be accurate, you have to hire for those. And so in every aspect, it's not just getting somebody that's hungry, humble, and smart, as we covered earlier. It's not just getting somebody hungry, humble, and smart, but it's getting the right person that's hungry, humble, and smart, that shares cultural values, that shares your ideals, that is going to work towards the same objective that you have. Most of that needs to be determined before they ever sign a contract and get hired on. It is far harder, with far more residual damage, to fire the wrong employee. And so you want to avoid that as much as possible. Now, obviously, there's some things you can't know in an interview process, which is why maybe the traditional interview process is a bit skewed, and why so many creative ways of interviewing and decision making has come to the fore in the last, 20 to 30 years. The old take them out to dinner and see how they treat the wait staff, and see whether or not they hold the door, and plant a piece of garbage or something in the room to see if they pick it up and throw it away. All those are attempts to kind of get around the fact that an interview has limitations. In a church world, in a church setting, especially a small church setting, in a small community, one of my favorite things to do is just hire from within, because you've got cultural fit. And you know that they're successful at what they're doing because you see those things. In fact, in many ways, you're getting the best interview process possible because they're actually doing the work day in, day out, and they're growing that ministry to the position where there's a need to hire. It's no longer a volunteer level. So that successful growth and enculturation, belief, value, connection, all those things can be determined in that very long form interview process of actually doing the work day in, day out. Now, lots of organizations don't have that opportunity, and even a church, once you've hired that person, if you had to fire them because of something, or because they moved to a different locale, or because they retired, you've now got a position to fill now that you can't just long form interview everybody. But know this: you need to invest as much as reasonably possible in the process of getting the right fit up front. Recruitment is 80% of getting the job done.